Hope you all had a good break. So for the past 20 years, I've been absolutely fascinated by the study of human behaviour. And when I say the study, you're probably thinking, I'm an academic, I've been to university to study it. No, I've worked in marketing for the past 20 years. And I'm quite fortunate in the fact that I've worked across multiple different industries, multiple different sectors, and I've had the opportunity to look at different customer profiles. So I've had clients that were a builder's merchant or a cruise liner. I've ran promotions based on activating partnerships between Morrison's Supermarket and a primetime Saturday night TV show. And I've even been involved in building a digital fan engagement platform and loyalty club cash scheme for the biggest football club in the world, Sheffield United. It's my biggest football club anyway. But ultimately, we're all striving for a deeper understanding as to how we can how what we do inspires a behavioural change. And what myself and Sam are going to speak to you about today is the power of promotions and how promotions are used as a tried and tested tactic to inspire that behavioural change. So my name's Emma Kirk and I'm the General Manager at the Institute of Promotional Marketing, which rolls off your tongue really well. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the IPM, we're a long-standing organisation, 92 years I think it is off the top of my head, and we are the trade body for the promotional marketing industry in the UK. And it's our job to protect, promote and progress the industry of promotional marketing for the benefit of both our members and the wider industry and consumers. And we're quite uniquely placed in the fact that we actually sit on the CAP committee as part of the Advertising Standards Authority. So we sit at the table when it comes to regards to setting regulation and legislation for the use of promotional mechanics in the UK. But at the IPM, we firmly believe that promotions have the power, as it says there, to captivate, inspire and bring consumers together. But the exciting thing is because obviously the access that we've got to technology and the internet today, it presents more opportunities than ever for brands to really attract, engage and cultivate lasting customer experiences. So let's just take it back a little bit and look at the history of promotions. So if you do your research, one of the first kind of recorded promotions, need to remember to get my dates right. So back in 1887, the founder of Coca-Cola cultivated a promotion that was aimed at taking Coca-Cola from a local brand, local drinks brand, to being a national drinks brand. And they did that by the way of doing a coupon that was buy one, get one. So buy one, get one free, as we're all familiar with. Now, during that period when that promotion ran, it ran between 1887 up to 1913, I believe it was. And there was somewhere in the region of 8.5 million free Coca-Colas that were distributed. And within a few years, Coca-Cola went from being a local brand to being served in every single state in America. So the impact of that promotion really galvanized that brand and helped it to really spread right the way across America. And it's still a promotion that we see very much used today. So fast forward to today, and I'll talk about this quite a lot, is obviously the utilization of technology. And because we've all got smartphones, we've all got access to the internet on 24/7 basis, it means that the door to global dynamic audiences is well and truly open. So I think it's safe to say that promotions are a tried and tested tactic that has been used for a hell of a long time. But I think it's important to note that particularly during times such as we're facing now of tough economic hardship, that promotions are still utilised as a go-to form of driving engagement, interaction and sales amongst consumers, and also helping them to kind of weather these tough periods and ensure that they can potentially get access to more of what it is that they need. So let's just have a little look at a snapshot of UK trends. So I had a look at this and I pulled this together. So the IPA, they broadcast a report, a bellwether report that comes out every quarter in the UK. And what it does is it monitors the amount of spend and investment across the different marketing attributions. So you've got sales promotion, events, media and advertising, PR, to name just a few. Now, sales promotion continued to see a net growth throughout the quarters last year, really ramping up towards the fourth quarter to obviously help people through that festive period. But what does the future hold for promotions? Well, interestingly for us, as an organisation, we offer a legal advisory service. So we get a lot of people coming to us asking us to either write their terms and conditions for their promotions or vet the ones that they've already done. And we've seen a notable uptick, particularly over the last 6 months, of people coming to us with promotions that are actually just utilised to drive engagement to loyalty platforms. It's not necessarily to drive a sale or to enter a competition. It is actually to just get people utilising the platform. So that's really interesting. But there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to promotions. They can be used in so many different ways. And then obviously we're looking at it from the capacity of how it's utilised in loyalty. So I've just tried to summarise this a little bit. And I think one of the reasons why we're seeing this uptick in people wanting to utilise promotions to drive engagement is maybe because of the integration that we're now seeing of AI and how we're able to utilise AI to personalise. We're also able to use it to digest large quantities of data very quickly and very effectively. So we're wanting more people to utilise the platform so that we're gathering this data. And who knows, we'll probably be able to utilise AI in the future to serve up offers to people before they actually even need it, which is scary and exciting. Value-based personalisation and economic adaptability is another thing that I've just mentioned. So I'm a firm believer in staying abreast of what's going on in the world and looking at, you know, in the UK, obviously, we have things that come up around the energy price cap and all these different things, or it might be that interest rates are changing, and all these different economic factors can all lead into what consumers are spending their money on. And as I touched on before, promotions can be utilised as a vehicle to help consumers through these periods. Ultimately as well, because a lot of the time brands now own their own platforms and they built their own platforms, it becomes incredibly cost effective to be able to engage with consumers. And as we keep alluding to, promotions are a key tactic in which to do this. So I think overall, data-driven promotions, I've put in here about that emotional connection, and I collared Abby after she was on the panel before because she used my Spotify Wrapped example, because that is personally one of my favourite ones. I don't know if anyone noticed, but Strava, the fitness app, also tried to deploy this last year. Now, I don't know if anyone else is like me, but I'm one of the people that gets halfway around a run or 1 mile into a hike and I forgot to put my Strava on, so it's as if it's not counted. But this year, I've been very, very good with it, because I know at the end of the year I'm going to get my summary and I want to make sure that I've beaten how I did last year. But the thing is for me as well is that emotional connection, that value exchange. So we see promotions and we see discount offers and all these different things, but the examples that I've just given there is about us collecting consumer data and then just serving it back to them in a really attractive way. Everybody's favourite subject is themselves, and they want to know more about themselves. So if we can harness that data and serve it back to them, and I mean, I personally love to see this come to fruition in a real life setting. I think Marks and Spencer's do this with their Sparks card, if you shop with them regularly. And there's nothing I love to see more than being at a family gathering and my auntie boasting to me that she was the top purchaser of hummus in Barnsley that particular week. So I love to see it, I genuinely do, because of obviously the capacity that I work in. It's great to see these promotions come into life. But We talk again about price sensitivity and cost-effective rewards and looking at all these different consumer trends, so how promotions are really adapted into that. There is so many moving parts, which is why I tried to illustrate this in a bit of a Venn diagram. But it's really important that there's so many marketing tactics that are out there, but it's safe to say that promotions have been utilised and really stood the test of time. And we talk a lot today as well about the use of AI and gamification and all these different experiences that are both online and offline. I really love the example from Shell of what they're doing. Ever since COVID happened and the world all opened back up again, there's an overwhelming appetite for face-to-face experiences. So for loyalty platforms to be driving those experiences and those face-to-face events, I think is really, really exciting and something that you're going to see a hell of a lot more of. So yeah, I think overall, I hope that gives you a bit of a summary as to how I find the role of promotions and the power that it plays in loyalty. I'm now going to hand you over to Sam, who's going to talk a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Emma. Love being back in Stockholm. My fun fact is I went to a Swedish college in Minnesota in the United States, Gustavus Adolphus College. It's a real place. It has one of the best Swedish language programs in the United States, which is not saying a whole lot. It's like being the top purchaser of hummus in Barnsley. But nonetheless, I went there and developed a love of Swedish culture and lots of other things. So my name's Sam. I'm Director of Industry Strategy at Talon One, here to talk about how do promotions and loyalty programs interact. We've talked about both throughout the event, but we're really going to go into a bit more depth about how these two topics intertwine and how can you create more value in both of those domains when you take a bit of a holistic view towards each of them. So just to set the scene a little bit, generally what we'll find in loyalty and promotions might be a little bit controversial. Both of these things are meant to accomplish a similar objective, right? We're both trying to change customer behavior by giving a customer a reward, right? The mechanisms and the time scale are totally different. Loyalty tends to, of course, be on a much longer time cycle, but overall, we're trying to stimulate behavior by giving customers something and motivating that behavior. A challenge, though, is that we're often running these two initiatives in silos, and we end up over-incentivizing our customers and spending too much on our promotions and our loyalty offers when those two things come together. When you have inventory markdown, a point and redemption opportunity, a CRM offer, a sign-up bonus, all coming together at the same time, you're much more likely to end up with an upside-down margin purchase, and especially, like Emma was saying, as consumers are seeking more value from promotions, consumers are still tight. Something that worked in 2019 probably is going to be unprofitable in 2025. So what we'll examine in this section is how can we bring loyalty and promotions together to create more value in both those domains, and especially for us as loyalty leaders, how can we really help our business run better promotions and do, as Emma was saying, bringing some of that loyalty mechanisms into our promotions calendar promotions work. So in this session, two sections. First, we'll talk about how can we do a better job of changing member behavior through promotions, and then we'll kind of flip that on its head, and we'll talk about how can we use our loyalty program to improve promotions. Sound good? Do you remember that breath thing from yesterday, the physiological sigh? I'm going to do it because I'm nervous, so. Okay, onwards. But to start with a really brief introduction of Talon One, just so you know, where is our expertise coming on this topic? So Talon One is a software company based in Berlin, but we're very global. We really believe that the world is bombarding customers with crappy offers, right? Lots of businesses that aren't by any stretch a discounter are basically only screaming a brand message of discounts and value, which is often a mistake and not nourishing for the business. We've spent a lot of time examining why is this. A really key reason is that incentives, so promotions and loyalty, price reductions are managed across a bunch of different systems that are doing 10 or 20 things. but only one of those is focused on the incentive or actually changing behavior through reward. So businesses are leaving a lot of value on the table through this disjointed approach. So Talent One takes a holistic approach of both promotions and loyalty. So if you're ever thinking about how can these two domains fit better together, talk to us. Also here are some colleagues, Stefano, Bart, Andy, to chat during the breaks as well. But really, we'll let our customers speak for ourselves. We're really working with the best brands in the world to do this. Everybody from Adidas and Sephora and ASICS to airlines, hotel chains. Really lucky to work with the best businesses in the world on this mission of running better incentives. Okay. I want to introduce you to somebody. It's a special guest for our presentation, a bit untraditional for a conference. I want to introduce you to my wife. So she's a super, super cool lady. Her name's Kalina, and I think she's many of your target customer, right? So let's talk a little bit about us. Kalina and I, we are dual income, no kid consumers. Kalina has great taste, and we love to spend our money on things that we think are fun and bring us joy, right? So we're really good consumers, but I want to think about where do we lose Kalina as a profitable customer along the way if we're not taking a really thoughtful approach to our incentives? So let's imagine that Kalina is purchasing with your business 4 times. I'm going to do a retail example for this, but you can imagine the same thing for if these are hotel bookings or flights or whatever else. But so let's say Kalina comes to you in the spring, buys a denim jacket, comes back in the summer, buys a vase, comes back in the fall as temperatures dip and buys a cardigan. And then in the winter, she buys me another jacket for my Christmas gift. So in this scenario of Kalina purchasing 4 times, for simplicity's sake, let's say these are all 50 euro purchases with 20 euro in margin contribution. So what we're really focusing on here is the margin impact, profit impact of loyalty and promotion. So in this case, Kalina is bringing 200 euro in revenue to your business and 80 euro in profit or in margin contribution to the company. Let's imagine a scenario where Kalina picks up 20% offers over the course of those 4 purchases. So 2 of those just go down by 20%. What happens? Revenue is down to 180, so that's 10% down on revenue. That hurts, 10% decrease, but the real pain is in the bottom line, where we're down 25% from a margin perspective, right? So this is the discount story. If we haven't changed Kalina's behavior through these discounts, we're in trouble. Now let's add loyalty in on top of this and say that we're giving Kalina 2% of her spend back in loyalty points that she ends up redeeming, right? So we're deferring that cost and it ends up coming through as a redemption in the future. So in this case, of course, we're adding 2% to the revenue impact, taking away from her revenue contribution, and we're taking that margin impact down even further to 30%. So if we haven't changed Kalina's behavior compared to if she had not had the discounts, not had the loyalty program in the first place, we're in big trouble, and we need to prove, we need to know that some of this was incremental or working Kalina towards incremental profitable behavior, right? So in short, if we don't change Kalina's behavior, we're really in trouble, both in promotions and in loyalty. And the problem about my wife is she's really smart, right? And beautiful and all the other things, but she will sniff out the value that you're giving her, and she will beat your bottom line to death with anything that she can grab from your CRM, from your website, et cetera, even if she would have been perfectly happy to purchase at full price. So what does that lead us to? So both promotions and loyalty are all about changing behavior, right? That's what we're in the business of doing, is changing behavior. We've heard really great perspective of this from behavioral psychology and how do you actually get consumers to think about change, but that's what we do. We change behavior. If we're not changing behavior, our days are numbered, our CFOs are coming for us. When they are hungry for a way to cut budget, a loyalty program will come on to the chopping block, right? So we really need to know and prove that we're changing behavior. And that gets us into some of the cases and frameworks we'll share in the rest of the session about how do we change member behavior through promotions and how do we use our loyalty program to make sure that our overall promotions are better at changing behavior. So let's start with this about how do we change member behavior with member promotions. Starting off, I'm going to share a really quick framework. We're going to come back to this at the end too and have a special surprise for you all about this framework. It's a really simple way of thinking about how do we design a successful promotion. So it's basic, but we still find that many businesses aren't really thinking on this level of when we run a promotion, we should have a behavior change in mind. So we should think about what's the audience where we can change the behavior, what behavior are we trying to change, what's the reward we're willing to give them to change that behavior, and how do we surface that in the appropriate touch points with the customer, right? So not just that we have a 20% price decrease on the booking platform, but that we're surfacing that to appropriate customers who would make that booking, but aren't going to do it without us making sure that they know through our CRM work, right? So we'll come back to this framework and really use this as an example of how successful member promotions are run. First example I'll show, so in this section I'll share about 6 or 7 examples of businesses that are doing this really well. So we'll start with Scooters Coffee, which is a coffee quick service restaurant chain in the United States, doing some really, really cool stuff. If you followed, like, Starbucks lost a little bit of their swagger in the United States the last couple of years. There's been a bit more shuffling around of the market opportunity and some brand loyalty within the coffee space. So Scooters has done a really good job of capturing some of that share, expanding their franchise model really aggressively, and having a much more trendy menu offering for younger consumers in particular. So really nice loyalty program, fun mobile app, all that. But what I really want to talk about is a specific campaign that's a really, really well-designed member promotion that shows all of these basics in action of how do we change member behavior through a well-designed promotion. So this is all about building frequency, is the Scooters objective here. So what do we think about when we're trying to increase frequency? What should we probably avoid doing is rewarding customers who are already super frequent, right? So if we're spending to further reward customers that are already a daily purchaser, that might be wasted spend. There's other things that we should do for those customers to reward and retain them, but the exact incentive and the packaging is different than those who aren't frequent in the first place. The first thing Scooters did is they selected an appropriate segment based on RFM, so recency, frequency, monetary value, selecting a customer segment that was high recency, so they had recently purchased with Scooters, but low frequency or low frequency and average monetary value. So they're not frequent, but they did have some recency. And then they thought about the appropriate channels to bring this to life. But the behavior and reward design of this campaign, really simple. It was basically a building streak reward. So on Monday, if you came in and you purchased, you got 20 points. On Tuesday, the prize grew to 30 points, Wednesday, 40 points, right? So there's some psychology here that the further you go into the week, the more value you're opening up for the next day, and you might feel more of that there's a bigger reward that you're leaving out if you don't come back for the 3rd, 4th, 5th day in a row, right? So again, Scooters has an incremental audience that's not yet frequent, and they're trying to build frequency with a reward that's a substantial investment to get customers to come back in. What do they see? So really, really strong results in this. So a significant increase. Of course, not many of those customers were going to be purchasing 5 times a week, but they did get a significant uptake. And in this 1-week campaign, they drove $500,000 of incremental revenue. Incremental, right? So that's the most important thing, is that they were able to prove by A/B testing that this was actually an incremental increase in spend of that segment, right? Simple thing on the surface, and this is a 1-week activation, but the key thing to think about is that businesses should be running many, many different permutations of these personalized behavior-changing incentives across their member base, right? So Scooters did a really nice job of this, enabled by some of the technology here. So you think about the customer data platform for the segmentation, Braze to build out all those customer journeys in the customer engagement platform, and email and push, Talon One validating the incentive, and then Amplitude helping with the A/B testing. Another example, so that was a personalized member promotion, right, of like driving a specific behavior change for a given segment. What about the big picture kind of public member promotions? Lego, of course, is awesome at this. Did anybody buy this by chance, the Lego Barad-dûr? Checking if there's any huge nerds in the audience. In elementary school, I skipped school so many times to watch the VHS copy of Fellowship of the Ring that they threatened to suspend me, which is a really dumb punishment for a kid who's skipping school to watch Lord of the Rings. But I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so love this Lego set. But what Lego does with a lot of their big product releases is that they'll have a members-only gift with purchase set, right? So whenever Lego has that fandom entering the Lego ecosystem, often for the first time with their adult fan segment, there's something that they'd be fools to leave that on the table and not get the complimentary members gift with purchase. So in the Lord of the Rings set, it's this fell beast, the ring wraith dragon thing that the Nazgul will ride around on. So these screaming dragons. I mean, a perfect fit for this like big evil fortress Lego set. That, by the way, was like 458 pounds. It was a really, really expensive set, right? So the key thing here is that Lego, of course, this is a crazy premium experiential product. Never do they want to touch the price of this thing, right? Doing a members-only discount or just giving pure transactional value is really unnecessary. So they did something that's super brand building to acquire tons of members and provide more value, right? Okay, so a couple examples. Again, the scooters case was personalized, tactical, get this segment to do something new. Lego is a big splash member promotion to drive tons of interest in the program from a new, around a new big marketing moment for Lego in the calendar year, right? Now let's flip it and talk about how promotions or how loyalty can help us run better promotions. So I'm sure that many of us see that our businesses are struggling with our discounting, right? I think that consumers are much more value seeking, so they're more likely to abuse or misuse or stack together offers. They're more likely to seek out discounts than they would have in previous cycles. More of us are coupon clippers and budget seeking consumers, right? So we need to think about how can loyalty help us meet this big strategic challenge of we're spending too much on discounts and our margin is eroding from that. One paper I really like to pull out is from Boston Consulting Group, showing how little of the overall incentive spend is actually on personalized offers. So if we think about, on average, businesses discount 18% of their revenue away. So how often do we work on 18% of our company's revenue, right? It's a really big chunk of the pie. And with that plus loyalty, there's a really significant spend in all this incentives domain, but it's a good question of like, how much are we actually spending on personalized offers? Personalized offers, we've talked about it in several sessions this weekend. It's been, or in the last few days, and it's really been a key topic in the industry for decades, right? But the sad reality is that this little tiny green sliver is all that we're spending on personalized offers. So it's really peanuts of our total incentive spend is personalized in a meaningful way. The rest of it is basically, basic 20% welcome kind of emails, like really little here. So first off, hopefully a sigh of relief for some of you that we often feel that businesses are embarrassed that they're early on personalized offers, but you're not alone. The entire industry is at an unacceptable place with personalized offers. So we want to talk about how can loyalty come in and really help with growing that share. Boston Consulting Group recommends that companies go from 5% to at least 25% and higher in other industries with more share of personalized offers. How does loyalty help? And one thing that we see time and time again at Talon One is that in many cases, the best promotion strategy is a loyalty strategy. So they're definitely your big brand splash acquisition, out-of-home promotional activities that loyalty doesn't necessarily play a part in. But for everything around the customer life cycle, the long-term strategy of your relationships and your offers to the customer, loyalty should really be the centerpiece of that, right? So we'll talk about two specific tactics within this. First, the idea of using your loyalty program as a firewall around a lot of your transactional value proposition. And the second, just calling out a really simple fact that loyalty mechanisms are really financially efficient. And there's lots we can do, like Emma was saying, of using loyalty mechanisms in more of our promotions can be super, super effective. But the first thing I want to call out is that one thing you'll see is that businesses that are paying attention to their pricing power have a competitive advantage, right? So Adidas, if you read back several quarters in a row of Adidas, they're talking about their full price purchase share, which is of course in retail especially a really important metric. And Adidas obviously has Adi Club, a really successful, cool loyalty program. But ultimately what you see is that businesses that are optimizing and have CEO attention on our ability to sell at full price have a competitive advantage and are rewarded in terms of their share price. Once you boast that you've improved your full price purchasing power, analysts will be happy. If you're a stronger business, if you're able to stand by the prices that you list in the products at the get-go, right? So it's a sign of a healthy business. Of course, like a discounting model is a bit different, but for most businesses, we want to stand by the prices that we list products at. So how does loyalty help in all this, and how does loyalty help us get smart in the promotions thing, promotions topic? First, of course, is this idea of the loyalty firewall, where around big transactional events, businesses are fencing off and saying that you can't access this unless you're a member of the loyalty program. So at Talon One, we've seen a huge uptick in this around Black Friday, that more and more of our customers are using Black Friday as a members-only event, and then in key promotional days, you need to be members so that we lock you in and have a greater likelihood of bringing you back at full price, right? Sephora has always done this around their own Beauty Insider member days. Member days, also a growing thing around having a specific day or a specific week to really drum up some attention with member days. So loyalty firewall, really great strategy. We'd love to talk to you about this too if you're considering doing more of that too, because we think it's a super effective thing to do. The other area is just to think about the fact that loyalty mechanisms are really, really efficient. This is totally comparing apples to oranges here. So I recognize that loyalty points and discounts are totally distinct things. But there are some scenarios where we're likely to be able to change a customer's behavior with points instead of a discount. So in those scenarios where we can get a behavior change by giving points instead of a discount, we're going to be so much more financially sound than if we had just given a 20% discount. So I think Ian said earlier that with that dice roll from Dishoom, which is an awesome case study, you really can't get somebody to get out of bed for 16% discount, right? So 16% is kind of table stakes. Usually it's going to be 20% plus, right? So if you compare a 20% discount to doubling up your loyalty point allocation in a purchase, that's going to be much more financially efficient. And of course, loyalty points are a deferred cost, so that we're not actually influencing the margin of the purchase today. We're deferring that revenue, et cetera. So overall, we see that using loyalty points in these ways is much more efficient, which is why you see many more businesses layering in point promotions across their CRM journey, right? So this is with Harry Rosen, a really premium menswear luxury department store in Canada. And they've done a really good job of, of course, we're not going to run a discount on a $5,500 suit, but still using loyalty points as a way to drive frequency, drive visibility, and to move some stock at the end of season, right? So really using loyalty points in a way that's supportive of the brand, still provides value back to customers, but ultimately is abstracting that we're eating into the purchase size of a really premium luxury item. So really good stuff here. See lots more customers using points across the CRM journey. My heart broke yesterday when I heard about a business that wasn't able to show points and point balances in email for years, right? But I totally understand that, like where that comes from. But doing active things with points throughout the customer life cycle is so impactful, and you can do so much more with customers. Okay, that was it. So a bit of a turbocharged presentation. The special surprise for you. So at Talon One, we're all experts on promotions and loyalty programs. A big part of how we get that with our team is we have internal training resources on these topics. So one thing we started doing is sharing those with our customers and with partners. So for today, I got permission to share this educational course about how to design promotions with you all. It's pretty wonky. It takes like an hour, and it's pretty technical and all that. But if you scan this QR code, fill out a form, we'll give you access, and you can share that with some of your team too to get smarter about how to design successful promotions. QR code is still here, it just got smaller. So key takeaways here. First of all, we think that changing member behavior through promotions is of course a really important part of the loyalty program, and making sure that we're actually driving incremental behavior change throughout the member life cycle. And then second, we really see that loyalty programs have a lot of value to create if you can partner with the rest of your business to make use of loyalty mechanisms in the rest of your marketing work, right? So if you can do a better job of using points across CRM, if you can reduce your overall discount spend by replacing some of that with point bonuses, that can be really powerful. So for all of you in a loyalty leadership position, partnering with your CRM teams, your merchandising teams, your demand marketing teams, to think about how can we use loyalty better in those domains outside of your scope, I think there's a huge opportunity to create a ton more value for your business. So thanks very much. We'll be around to chat at all the breaks and stuff too.